What is good? Let's have some fun. It's the Fundamism podcast with your host Paul J. Long and all things fun. We'll let the fun begin. Woo! What is good, ladies and gentlemen? It's Paul J. Long on another edition of the Fundamism podcast. We're here with a fascinating gentleman today, but before we introduce him, got to shout out our sponsor, Charlie Hustle. Charlie Hustle doing great things in the Kansas City community, but as always, like we say on every single episode, you don't have to be a Kansas City resident to appreciate their duds. So go to charliehustle.com to learn more. And without further ado, we have our guest, Luther Glover, in the building. How you doing, Luther?
What's up, my man?
So, Luther, we're going to get into who you are and what the heck you do. Super excited about it. Before we do that, we like to start with one question every guest. What do you do for fun, brother?
I play basketball.
Do you play it well, though? That's the question.
Yeah. For 36-year-old man, yeah.
So, interestingly enough, we did the Kareem Rush episode here at your gym, TFW, which stands for what?
Training for Warriors.
Training for Warriors. And that's a franchise, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we're going to get a little more into that. But I walk in to your gym for the first time. I meet Kareem Rush. You walk in, and I say, oh, my goodness, like, I know you. So we used to hoop back in the day at 24-Hour Fitness.
Yeah, well, I was still playing overseas.
Yeah.
I know this dude.
So you were playing overseas, and again, we're going to get into that as well. But it's just interesting how the world turns, right? And karma and relationships. And we've resparked or reignited our relationship. I didn't know you very well back then, but we talked.
Correct.
But we have been hooping lately.
Yes, a lot.
Well, you've been hooping, and I've been getting my cardio in.
Getting buckets on.
So
0 for 59.
So that is true. Matter of fact,
me and Kareem, 59, you got 0 so far.
Hey,
you'll
keep
get there.
Keep putting me on blast. But of those 59, how many you got, Lou?
Hey, I'm at like 10.
10.
Hey, I got 10. I got 10.
Lou, of course, is a trader and not a mathematician. That 10 is an escalated number. So Lou, we play basketball. We've played now 3 or 4 times. And,
Right.
You give me grief. My shot has been suspect. I haven't got a W at all in one-on-one, and I love the format in which we play. I did get a win in Around the World because I'm more of a shooter, and I'm more of a fundamental basketball player, so I don't know what to do with myself when people aren't setting picks and whatnot.
Correct.
I'm making a bunch of excuses right now for why I'm losing
But you
in
beat
one-on-one.
Kareem, it's okay.
In Around the World, just that once. But here's my point. I'm learning, again, the game of basketball because it is kind of like a bike. You remember how to do it, but still, just like anything, it takes practice. And so my shot is extremely broke right now, as
for sure.
as evidenced by
It's all right, though.
a plane day. But that said, I'm sure that you went through times in your career where your shot wasn't where you wanted it to be, or where your athleticism wasn't wanted to be, or your stamina, or whatever it may be. So how do you work your way through that stuff?
So as far as working my way through it, I think my best thing was what I did was I always was an underdog, and I was always the dude that was like not that good enough. I was athletic. I was real athletic, super athletic. So that was my niche, super athletic and work ethic. With those two things, I kind of like used it to try to get better. Like, all right, like I used to until I was like 22 years old, I used to let people they bring me down or let the negativity overcome me. So once I got to 22 and I'm like, shit, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm gonna be me. I'm happy who I am. I started progressing and, when I was in college playing ball, I started, just loving life, loving me, and the rest was pretty much history.
Where'd you play basketball at in college?
So I went to KC Community College, started there, then I went to University of North Dakota. Fargo, transferred to Lincoln my last year. And after that, 2006, I started playing in Mexico. Then I went to Colombia and played over there in Bogota. Then I went back to Mexico. Then I went to Estonia, played there, Finland.
Oh, that's where Rob's from, Estonia, right, Rob? You're from Estonia. Oh, yeah. Rob just got the results back of his DNA test. He is 47% Transylvania, 44%. So, but all vampire.
All vampire.
So you played a lot overseas, and that generated a lot of life experiences and life lessons for you. So I know that was kind of a challenge because you were basically thrown into this completely new culture, something that you were uncomfortable with. Your come up was like many individuals, somewhat of a struggle growing up in a dual parent household, right? Like they
Dual parent household. They both work like crazy,
right?
just to make ends meet. So still work. My dad does, and mom's retired. But growing up in a double parent home was cool. But like people think it's good as far as ethic wise and as far as having a dad in my life. Because some black men in the hood don't have a dad, and it's always just a mom. So for me to have that structure, it was cool. I was more sheltered as well, and I mean I seen a lot of crazy stuff go on. Don't get me wrong, but I was lucky that I didn't. I wasn't out on the street smoking weed and dealing with gangs and violence and stuff. How it was.
What kept you from getting involved in that lifestyle? Because I know it's very easy to follow folks and to want to be accepted.
So when I was I say 10 or 11 years old, I grew up on 920 Cleveland. So all you saw was people those gangs was big back then. But back then it was more like fist fights, knives and stuff. You didn't
Sure.
see, now it's you say something to the wrong person, they shoot you.
Mm-hmm.
I just my parents it was the real hero with that. They kept me on the straight and narrow. I was too scared to make them disappointed. So I always think about the repercussion behind shit with my mom and dad. So with them, thinking about them first, and then just I was I don't want to be them people, even though those were the cool people, quote unquote. I was on the outside, oh, he's a geek, he's a nerdy.
Is that true?
No. But I'm just saying, I
But did
I was
they look
corny.
at you that way?
Yeah, I was corny, I was lame. I feel like I'm still corny and lame, but I don't give
Oh, yeah, you're corny as hell.
I don't give a shit. That's just, I dress how I dress. I don't want to be like everybody else.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, once you're comfortable being who you are and in your skin, who gives a shit what someone else thinks?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Be you.
That's absolutely right. Now, for you and like many others, athletics gave you opportunities, created environments for you to meet people that you typically wouldn't hang out with, gave you the opportunity to get away from, the challenges that your neighborhood created for you and others.
Right.
So talk to us about your experience overseas. So you went to North Dakota, transferred to Lincoln. Now you're overseas. You're thrust into this completely new culture. You don't have all the people and things in your life that kind of made you tick. How did you cope with that?
So at first it was real scary. It was you over there, you're there, but you're not there. You're oh shit, I'm here, but this is different. Eating the food was different. I think for me the main experience that was the first time I went over for I think it was I forget exactly where, but I'm on a rail in Europe, and I'm man, this is crazy. Everybody no one talks. You can walk up to somebody and say oh, it's Finland, Helsinki. So I'm in Helsinki, and I'm on a rail. I'm hey, how you doing? And they just look at you because over there, no one talks. So you say,
could it be that they just don't speak English?
No. They speak English. They speak English. They just don't talk.
Okay.
And people in Finland, they just real resting bitch face.
Okay.
And so you're man, no one's talking. So you do I got a booger on my face? But in actuality, it's just that's their culture. They Finnish people have that face. They don't really speak to. They just let you speak to them. And they don't know you, they don't know you. So it's
it's like walking down the street in Connecticut.
Yeah, and so for me it was kind of hard because I'm the only child. So I'm man, I'm in this. I hung out with my teammates, but I didn't hang out with them sometimes. I just really I didn't use Skype. I used Facebook at the time, and a little thing that you put into your laptop called Magic Jacks.
Okay.
And that's how I taught. I just stayed on there. I ran my phone bill up talking to people. Over there we had 3 practices and one game a week. So I had a lot of downtime. And over there, it's dark. It's like Alaska. It's dark all day. And then...
Depressing.
Yes. So that was one of the craziest, this is not Europe. I was never big time to play in Euro Cup, Italy, France and all that. But the places I went, I could touch real good on culture-wise. It made me appreciate what little I had. And it made me not look at money. It really made me look at like just the experiences. Like I could say, oh shit, like I got to pay these bills, blah blah blah. But you when I played in Mumbai, India, case in point, you drive down the street. I'm in a nice hotel they got me put up for play, and then down the road you see like a mom in there on the side of the road, and she's washing her kid up in rain puddle water. That like just broke. I was just crying like crazy. I'm like seeing that, it was just like eye opener. And then they have 3 million people in poverty over there. So I'm like, we as U.S. citizens and Americans, we sometimes forget how blessed we really are.
Sure.
And like you go to them third world countries like Colombia, it's the most beautiful country, but certain parts are very poor. And I mean, we over there playing ball and making a little bit of money, but it's just like these people, this is where they live. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's pretty for us to go and visit, but it's like, man, we take life for granted sometimes. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely. And what I find amazing about that story, and I'm learning more about you every single day.
Yeah.
And somebody told me the other day, you and Lou are boys, like you've known each other for forever. Well, we really have only talked like 5-6 times. I mean, like really talked, right?
Yeah.
And of course, with that, relationships blossom, you learn more about. So every single day I learn something new about you. And so thinking about all the places that you've been and all the things that you've seen sheds a lot of light on who you are as an individual and some of the mindset that you have. And that's no different from everybody listening to this podcast. Like we all have these experiences in our life that helps create our perception of what is. Now, I say that because what's interesting is we've had a lot of conversations about your business. So now you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur. You decided that you were going to buck the trend of being, or living paycheck to paycheck, like your mother and like your father. You said, you know what, I'm going all in. I'm gonna be a business owner, and you own 2 businesses.
Yeah.
So you are a gym owner.
Yep.
We talked about TFW.
Right.
But you also own a janitorial services where you manage people and just got a great contract. So congratulations to you.
Appreciate it.
But yet, you've made all these risks and you're putting yourself out there, but you still, right now, you're dealing with this struggle of trying to figure out how to pay the bills. You're trying to figure out how to make ends meet. How do you cope with that?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out. So I say like in dealing with all the stress that goes along with bills and owning businesses and all this, they're gonna always be there, right?
Sure.
So I think, for one, you have been a light in a short period of time that we actually been getting tight, just like trying to keep my composure and try to have me keep an open mind.
Thank you.
And because it's easy to be,
to get sucked
I
in.
just signed my life away with 200. I had to sign 200 pieces of paper.
Right.
10 minutes to sign 200 sheets of paper. But you're like, whoa. But I mean, I'd say like the biggest thing with me is I surround myself around like what I like. Yeah, I'm not playing basketball anymore, but I like to play one-on-one. I like to talk crap on one-on-one, talking shit, shooting shit with people like you. Let's go grab something to eat. Let's go lift weights. Let's go. Fitness is my outlet and my refuge, I say now. And I couldn't see myself behind a desk. And the people that do it, I commend them. I love it. But for me, I think I just love health and fitness. I love getting people better, whether it's athletes or just women and men that want to lose weight, who have sedentary lifestyles that come in here and they just want to say, hey, I need help. Because guys are hard with the ego, but I've been fortunate to meet a lot of everyday people that just need help, women and men, like losing weight or just being in shape.
Sure.
And so I'd say that's one of the things that help. People. One of the things that my gym has developed that I like is people I never thought I'd meet in a million years. I'm over their house going to eating and shooting the shit with them, and like I've been exposed to a lot of you could say, what do you want to say, successful people, and they're nice people, and then you got some that you're just like, hey, I'm over here, but I don't think I'll be back.
I could do without, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been cool, but it's just like I try to surround myself around those kind of people, because when it comes to working out, man, I might work out 3 days. If the stress is really hitting me, I'll come in the back and just hit the weights or do something. Let me get on this tread. Let me go do some sprints. Let me go run the hill. Something related to fitness or.
Now, why is your stamina still so suspect then?
Stop.
You said so many things just now that I believe that our listeners can relate to. So the first thing that you said, this is your first time tuning into the podcast. First of all, welcome. But the concept that we talk about on a regular basis is called Fundamism. And we don't always call it out specifically, but basically it's gravitating towards the things that give you strength. Everybody in this world has challenges that they face in life. Every single one of you listening is going to be faced with challenge or have faced some unspeakable travesty or challenge in your life. So what Lou just said is, man, when I'm dealing with the stress, I love gravitating towards the things that make me smile. Like I hoop, I talk mess, I go out to eat with my friends, those, it's not rocket science. Like when you're having a bad day or when you're being challenged with something, if you go and you do something that makes you smile, you think about the stuff that doesn't make you smile a little bit less.
Yeah.
And so there's something magical in what you just said, and I appreciate that. And that's the environment that you're trying to create here at TFW.
Yeah.
You also said that you like to surround yourself with people that help make you feel good or that help lift you up or that you could learn from. And so recently had a conversation with a gentleman that we both know, and we were talking about the people that you surround yourself with and the situations that you find yourself in. And this particular gentleman said, I'm a really cynical person. And so I asked a bunch of questions, and I know a lot of you listening today might be cynical. But I asked him, tell me a little bit about the experiences and why you're so cynical. I believe that this gentleman is cynical because he surrounds himself with people that challenge his moral compass, right? That he looks at, and the worst in and of himself he sees in others, and then that environment is manifested, and then the relationship goes south. So specifically, if you're going to surround yourself with people that drive cynicism in your life, well, what that tells me is you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people. Because I meet people like you and people like Rob and people like Chase down at Charlie Hustle, people like Larry Perez, who Rob, you know, that just lift us up. And they have forced me to think about where I am in life and gravitate towards the things that I love. And that's why I'm here today. So I believe that is something that your gym has. That a lot of gyms don't, because everybody right now says that they want to get in shape.
Yeah.
But not everybody's making it a priority.
No.
So if you think about your gym, TFW, which again stands for?
Training for Warriors.
Training for Warriors. Are you a warrior?
I am.
I will say that you're about the I don't want to say bulkiest, but like, is dense the word? Like, when you post me up, you were like I don't want to say strongest, but like thickest dude ever. Like, it hurts. You were like a rock. You still don't have any stamina.
Yeah.
And you still will get ran in the streets. But what I'm saying is, I admire your fitness level. What differentiates your gym and the relationship that you have with your clients from others? I mean, there's Lifetime Fitness, there's Genesis, there's all of these others, but what differentiates yours?
So I would say mainly, like I told you, to be honest, the camaraderie. Like, I'm not selling you on like the fancy stuff. We don't have a spa. We don't have all that stuff is cool. But if you want to like get a good work in, get results, and I'd say if you want to get results, get a good workout and be around like people like you just said with fundamism, like that's here. Cause we all like, I have a niche to bring that out of people. Like I have everybody like a nickname for people. Like I give everybody a nickname, my basketball kids, my personal training clients, my weight loss clients, everybody got a nickname. Right. And some are crazy names that I can't even say on here, but it's all in love. And I think a lot of the workouts, it takes us all back to like when we play high school sports, we play middle school sports or college sports. All of our sports makes every adult, it makes them relive those glory days.
Sure.
And not only that is we've created an environment here that you have a coach, myself, my staff, we're the coaches, and we're gonna give you all the knowledge as far as nutrition, as far as every message that we start with our gym, and every workout starts with a motivational message, right? So this whole week we've been talking about like people and facing adversity and how they face the adversity and overcome a lot of obstacles in their path.
Sure.
And one of them, let's say was the lady that created Harry Potter.
Okay.
She,
J.K. Rowling.
Right. She
living in her car.
Exactly. And despite that, she's going to a coffee shop every night. She's writing a book there. The coffee people start giving her, tea and start helping her, her and her kid. And next thing you know, what is she? She's very successful. Harry Potter's, billionaire, big castle. And
right.
But when she started, everybody has their starting. And, Dr. Seuss, he was rejected 27 times.
Wow.
Before, the
Michael Jordan got cut. high school.
All these people that they said, oh, he's not gonna make it. He's too small. Like Steph Curry, he wasn't gonna make it. He wasn't gonna be an good NBA player. LeBron James, he won't make it. All these guys, like that was doubted or whatever. The moral behind that, all these successful people, the Apple guy, Jobs, all these. We talked about all these every day. It was some kind of a person that faced adversity or faced a messed up background, and 10, 15 years later, they're very successful.
Right.
And so we try to relate that with the workout. You can relate that with your career, whether it's your health and fitness, your relationships with your spouse, whatever, that you're going to be faced with it, but it's what you do.
Sure.
Like, how are you going to fold? Or are you going to, ask for help? And I think it comes back down to also, like, a lot of people are scared to ask for help. Me, I'm not a prideful man. Hey, I don't understand this. I need help. Like, I'm the quickest dude that, hey, I need help. Like, hey, I don't, if I can't do it, I'm gonna try. First, I'm gonna try to do it myself. First off, then I'm gonna try to exhaust all my resources. But yeah, I'm not a prideful guy when it comes to that.
What's Rob's nickname?
you want your
Rob? What's your nickname?
Tell him.
I don't know.
You don't know your nickname? You don't have a nickname?
I have a bunch.
He says he has a bunch, ladies and gentlemen. What I gather is they don't want to say it on air, which I respect. So we'll let that one go.
I can say one.
What is it?
Tight ass shorts.
Tight ass shorts. I've never seen you in shorts, Rob.
Yeah, you see how tight they are. Boy. You see every vein in his leg.
So you're vascular. That's a strong.
I wouldn't say that either. Boy, about to bust out them shorts.
So Rob is extremely good, people. When you think about who you want to surround yourself with, obviously Rob
case in point, Rob.
Yep.
5 months ago I met him. He's like, I want to get in shape. Now he's put on.
And that wasn't 5 months ago. That was when we did the Kareem Rush podcast.
No, that was like October.
Was it?
Yeah, that shit.
For real?
No, you getting old in your age, man.
That is true. I'm 37 years old. How old are you?
I'm 1 year younger than you.
Okay.
That's
why. So get to 37. Talk to me about how great your shot is.
Yeah. It'll be better than that shit you got. Yeah, so he wanted to put on some weight. Okay. 15 pounds later, he's got 15 pounds on him.
Yeah, and a perfect testament to you in the environment that you create. I get the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Rob, our cameraman, and he said, "Man, I'm eternally grateful for Luther. Luther got me. He got my body back. Like he got me to a place where
his
feel more
mom
comfortable.
told me, gave me a big hug, said, "You got my boy back." I'm like, man, that's tough. I'm like, how you know me? Like, she walked up to me in the store and just that made my day. I'm like, she knew me and knew my name and everything, and started hugging me. I'm like, man, I got a lady here that was like, she's like 300 pounds, man. She's down to like 197.
Wow,
2.5 years.
That's crazy.
Kept going. That's the stuff that really inspires me, man. Seeing that, like, keep going. You got more, and then believing in these guys. A lot of these coaches and a lot of trainers, they don't. It's all about the money, like you said. We're money driven, and that's just a natural thing. Even myself, but when you see somebody success as far as them losing weight from point A to point Z, you're like, dang, I had something to do with that.
Sure.
And I feel like that's pretty cool to say you had something to do with somebody, their journey as far as for them to get their health back, so they won't be high blood pressure or we have a lot of touching stories, and some of our members that I work with, almost got divorced because of their weight, or some of them, were just functioning alcoholics, but now they don't drink no more.
Right.
So those are my real heroes, and those are my real guys I can talk about. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of athletes, though, pro athletes and college athletes, and that's cool too. Don't get me wrong.
You work with me, so yeah, you got all of those bases covered. Look at this.
This is true.
Look at this.
This is true.
You had mentioned a lot of folks are motivated by money. And, I believe that we were all placed in each other's lives for a reason. And you and I have come to each other's lives in an interesting place in both of our careers. And we've talked a lot about, it's easy to say that these feel-good stories that make you tick, but then you get at home and you see that these bills are piling up and you see that those experiences aren't paying the bills, right?
Yeah.
And so you stress about it and you stress about money and finding the next client or whatever it may be. You said these folks are motivated by money. So one of the biggest things that I challenge people to do when I'm on stage or when I'm on a podcast or when I'm just, rapping here and now is that I don't believe that anybody's motivated by money. You think you're motivated by money, but what you're really motivated by is experience. Because money gives you the opportunity to buy experience. Right now, you're stressing about paying the bills. Right now, you're stressing about paying this lease. Right now, you're stressing about whatever it is you're stressing about, right? And you believe that money is going to give you the opportunity to pay these things down to a place where you don't have to stress about it right now. What that is that's experience. You want the experience to live freedom. You want the experience to be able to come in here and be motivated by all these folks and these amazing stories and the relationships that you create with folks like Rob and the young lady that you said lost, over 100 pounds. That's what you want to feel, but you're so burdened by money that you can't, right? So I believe that, again, my goal in this relationship, you and I's relationship, is I'm a living testament. And I haven't talked a lot about this openly with anybody but you. Just 2 years ago, Luther, we were in the red. Like, I quit my job. You know that I had a really great job. Mm-hmm. I was making money and I was miserable. Yeah. I was chasing that paycheck and it was the worst I ever been. I drank every night. I smoked weed every night. And either one of those things in isolation, I don't think are a bad thing. But when you're doing it to escape something, you got problems, right? Mm-hmm. So I had this brand new baby girl. I wasn't present at home. I had a beautiful wife that loved me. We lived in Portland, Oregon. And I went home every night and I wasn't present. So I decided to quit my job. And I pursued this Fundamism thing. And I'll never forget, my wife said to me one day as I was crying on her shoulder, and I think that you could relate to that because you're an emotional being as well. Very. She says to me, Paul, the world needs Fundamism, but you need it more. I encourage you to go out and chase it, and I support you. And that's when I knew that I had the girl that I needed to have, right? The woman of my dreams. So it didn't come without challenge and adversity, which we're going to talk about in your life, though, because with that, I leave a $100,000 a year job, and now I'm trying to make it on my own. And I'm living on credit cards. I got $30,000 in credit card debt. I don't know where the next paycheck is coming from. But you know what? I wasn't stressing about money anymore. That's what's weird. Like, I was really gravitating towards the things that lifted me up and the people that I knew were good for me and challenged me. And I can honestly say 2 years later, Lou, I'm in a wonderful place. Like, there's a term out there called hacking the flow, when you just figure it out. Like, and I'm not saying that there's not room for growth and that I don't have a lot more goals, but when you truly hack the flow, you feel like you're in the zone. Like, you're just riding the wave and you're doing the damn thing, and you don't feel like you're working because you're doing the stuff that you love, right? My point is, I don't have a ton of credit card debt anymore. No. I'm doing all right. Yeah. The come up is happening. And I believe that it's happening because I wasn't chasing the money. And I know that that's easy for me to say. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. And you say, Paul, it's so easy for you to say that when you're not staring at a lease. And what I remind you is, at one point in time I was, bro, like I was in your shoes. I think it's important to bring this conversation out right now between you and I, because everybody listening right now is dealing with the same thing. Like, everybody's on lock with a day-to-day paycheck, or they're miserable in whatever situation. They're so scared to leave because they don't know how they're going to make it. But I believe in my heart of hearts, if you do what you love and you're passionate about it. I told Lou flat out, I told you the other day, I said, Lou, you're not good at making money. Like, that's not what you're good at. That's what you're trying to do, but that's not what you're good at. You're good at training people. You're good at being a genuine dude. You're good at inspiring people to lose 100 pounds or to want to come in here and be different. You're creating these experiences that people are living. That's what you're good at. And when you find a way to showcase that in everything that you do and stop stressing about making the money, I'm telling you, man, these people are going to find you. I know that these people listening to this podcast would appreciate that. Now, reason why I bring all that up is because I've had my own trials and tribulations, as is everybody else. You're faced with challenge every single day, but you talked about perspective earlier. Being overseas, man, it provided a lot of perspective, and seeing a young lady wash her child in a puddle, and seeing all these folks in poverty, it puts a lot of things in perspective. I think even you in your own personal life, if you look back of all the stuff that you've been challenged with right now, is nothing, right? It's peanuts. No. So talk to me in the audience about those challenging days in your life and what was going on and how you got through them.
So
it's about to get deep.
So as far as just growing up, I mean, it was times when, my mom we had our lights cut out sometimes. We had no heat. Sometimes it was just tough, man. I mean, my freshman year, I didn't know what foreclosed means. We got our house foreclosed. And I'm like, man, I'm living with family and my boys. And I'm like, man, like, but at the time, I didn't understand what was going on. So I'm like, I'm just thinking I'm staying here for a little bit, until we get back on our feet. And things got better. But it was just like, when my grandma was alive, we used to get like commodities. That's like government food. But I didn't know it was a bad thing growing up. It was good as hell to us.
Sure. I was on WIC.
Yeah.
We were
same
living it up.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, man, like, but when people, to me, that was how I grew up. Like, it was tough times. It was, stuff that my mom sacrificed. She wouldn't pay a bill to make sure I had basketball shoes. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that make me, those type of memories make me be like, okay, shit, man, I got to turn it up.
Right.
Or when you feel like giving up, you think about that.
Sure.
Did your mom give up? Did she? No. Did your dad give up? No. Did she? And they provided for me as much as they could. They still do it from time to time when they can. And, as far as struggles, that...
Didn't you say that, you mentioned J.K. Rowling, you mentioned to me in passing the other day, there was a time that you lived out of your car. Did you say that? No?
Not me. Not that
He
one.
said, not me. I didn't live out of my car.
Not on that one.
But you did introduce a gut-wrenching story to me. Like, in the first couple conversations that we had, you told me about the hardest struggle that you ever went through and thinking about not being here anymore. Would you mind sharing that story?
Just like depression.
Yeah.
So like I relate to like a lot of those athletes who going through that. So like I know like when I hear people say, "Oh yeah, you got all the millions of dollars," like you say, it goes back to the money thing. Like I know, Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan, they actually struggle with mental health issues. So like I train a lot of athletes. So some of them, I'm not a counselor, but I can tell them from my experiences with depression and some of the things I went through with depression that, I'm just blessed to still be here a lot, today. And so I try to relate to them and tell them my testimony and my story because a lot of people don't want to be open with that and they don't want to talk about it because they're prideful or their ego or this person might be psychotic, you know what I mean? But it's not that. You go through stuff. You go through, doesn't mean that you're not you're human, you know? And I think that we put a lot of pro athletes on a pedestal or collegiate athletes on a pedestal and it's like, shit, these people are just like us. And when people say, how can you go to a counselor? I've been a counselor. I've been, to help me. You just need someone to talk to. Sure. And I think that it's hard to admit that you need help, and it's like you'll just say, "Oh no, I'm not doing that. I don't want to talk about my problems to someone." So they hold it, and that's why a lot of suicide rates are up. Sure. Instead of just going to get help. Like Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan. If I had access to talk to them, I would actually be like, "Hey man, you need to talk. Hit me up." Those dudes. Because to hear people, you hear a lot of people scrutinize guys like, these dudes are in the NBA, but yeah, they're multimillionaires. That's cool, but they still are human.
Sure, absolutely.
So depression and mental health is real.
Well, and along those lines, I think that it's so faux pas for us to talk about things like suicide. And I know that, we're talking about professional athletes, but there's not a person listening to this right now that can honestly tell themselves that they haven't thought in their head at one point in time in the most challenging situation that they've ever faced, maybe life would be a little bit easier if I wasn't here. Now, I'm not saying that you took steps to explore suicide. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that I believe that we've all, and it's very common, had thoughts in our head saying, man, I just don't want to deal with this. Or it's so much easier just to not be faced with this challenge. What if I just wasn't even here? Right. And I think today in today's society, it's so faux pas to talk about that because then
also we live in a very judgmental, closed-minded society.
Absolutely.
So when you live in a judgmental society, it's like, you never know what a person's going through. Sure. So who am I to talk about this man or this woman over here?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not my, and I've been guilty of it in the past, but I'm like, hey, that's who he is and that's who she is. Like, hey, I accept him and her for what they are, what they do. That's on them. That ain't got nothing to do with me, my life. But like you said, it's we live in a very judgmental. Like I said, we live in a judgmental society, very closed-minded. If it's not black or white, then it ain't right. No one wants to see that gray area. You know what I'm saying? It's always a gray area.
It's not black or white.
It's not.
There's a gray area, and it's Transylvanian.
It is.
So you talked about sharing your testimony, and I'm pushing on you a little bit because I think this story is so impactful. You had one of those moments where you were like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to do this no more. And if you're comfortable, Lou, I think that so many people could learn from it. I want to hear it.
Just that,
You said remove your pride and your ego, man.
I know, man, I know. So I experienced it and went through it actually and tried to do it myself. And luckily I woke up and I was there, I was here still. And my buddy found me and I'm fortunate for him.
Right.
And yeah, never would do that in life again. But yeah, like.
The reason why I bring it up, and I know it's uncomfortable to talk about, man, when you share stuff like this, you said you never know what other people are going through. There's somebody right now that's listening, and they're thinking about it. I myself had a boy, I didn't tell you this. This was my boy growing up. And in high school, something was off. He came over to my house one night, and he was just acting different, right? And I just sensed like the energy was all, I'm all about energy.
Right.
When something don't feel right, like I feel sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
And so I was asking him, what's going on? Nothing. And he wouldn't give me no information. Well, he was carrying with him a backpack. And I opened the backpack and there was a noose in his backpack. And I pull it out. I said, what the hell is this? And he tries to downplay. He's like, oh, it's nothing, right? Well, I knew what he was going through. Like I knew that he was going through some significant challenges in life. And he had so much going for him. But in his mind, he had so much not going for him, right? And we all know somebody like that. When you hear these stories, I think so many people can relate that, from a perspective standpoint, we're all similar. Black, white, gray, it don't matter. Like everybody's going through something. And it doesn't matter. You see all these, we talked about this the other day, all these celebrities, all these, comedians, Robin Williams, whoever it may be, and they're committing suicide. And you think that they got everything that you want. Like, oh, money's going to solve them. And I don't say you, I mean like society, like money's going to solve all my issues. It don't. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is your experience in life and how you feel, right? People aren't going to remember you. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And so at the end of the day, when you're buried, we're buried long and gone, ain't nobody going to see the amount of money that you made on your grave. No. There's been a lot of multimillionaires. People don't talk about Steve Jobs because of the amount of money that he made. They talk about him because of what he created and how humble he was. Warren Buffett's another perfect example. But did you see the meme recently of Steve Jobs when he was alive, standing in line for a hamburger, that the line was like 15 deep, and somebody posted something about, when a billionaire is sitting in line just like everybody else. They are everybody else. And so as you are sharing your testimony, or as you guys are listening to this and you're going through whatever it is you're going through, remember that you're no different from everybody else.
It's all about putting yourself in a good situation too.
That's it.
One of the stories we got I share with is you brought that up. It's funny you brought that up. It's about one of the motivational messages. One of our motivational messages relates to a kid, and it goes that these two boys, and they met each other in high school freshman year, and the guy walks up to him and sees him has all his papers and calculator and pens and stapler all over the floor. So he goes over and helps him pick it up. So he says he picks it up and they end up walking home just to find out he lives literally right on the next block. So he's like, oh man, you want to come over and play video games? So the kid he helped pick up the stuff, he's like, yeah. He's like, all right, sure. And so they end up being friends for 4 years straight. They was inseparable, right? Well, come graduation, he says, man, do you remember the day, the guy that was had the stuff all over the floor? He goes, do you know what happened that day that we met? You remember that day? He's like, yeah, man, you had your shit all over the floor. You had your calculator. You had your bag. You was a mess that day. And he said, yeah. He's like, do you know what I was about to do that day? And he said, no, what was you about to do? He's like, well, I was actually cleaning out my locker, and a guy had bumped into me because I felt, I'm at the point in time, I was being pushed around,
being bullied.
Yeah, and he said that he was picking up his stuff and cleaning out his locker for the next person to take over that locker because he was going home to take pills and commit suicide. And it was a true story. about a guy out in, I want to say Portland, Oregon, but him and that guy actually became real close friends on a successful company. And if he hadn't bumped into that dude, he wouldn't be here today. It's a true story. And the moral behind it is you always want to surround yourself, like you said, around people that are positive energy or that can uplift you, not someone that's going to bring you down. You want to be around the most positive people. And I mean, even if you don't want to, you can take other routes besides going to a counselor. You can just be around a positive energy.
Right.
And that, I think
Or go work out.
Or go
right?
work out. I'm talking about if you got to work out 18 times in a day,
That's right.
go work out. Work out or get around positive energy. Because if you don't, then that's when those thoughts come in your head.
You're just alone in your thoughts.
Just alone, yeah.
That's right.
And if you're already down, it can get real bad for you real quick.
Well, I've probably told this story before, and so forgive the redundancy if you've heard it. But one of the main reasons why I got into the speaking business is I saw a speaker years ago by the name of Keith Harrell. And he used to tell a story about his grandma growing up. And he'd say, my grandma used to tell me, he said, don't ever judge the face if you can't judge the heart. Mm-hmm. You never know where someone's been, and you don't know what they're going through in life. Yeah. He said, growing up, your grandma gave you so many smiles, so if someone doesn't have one, you bless them with one of your own. That's what inspired me that day to figure out how to get into this business and find a way to help people. Because every single day you got members that come in here, and some of them want to be here, Lou, some of them don't. Some of it took every ounce of courage and every ounce of push that they have in their body to force themselves to get up at 5:45 and go work out. Mm-hmm. But they did it. And then they got to see you. And they got to hear Rob cracking jokes and being silly in his tight-ass shorts. And it made them realize that it was all worth it. So I admire you, man. Our relationship is obviously, it's fresh. It's just getting started. We got a lot to accomplish together. But I admire what you're building, and you just remember that as you're trying to figure it out, as you're trying to find your way, as you're trying to figure out what's motivating you and all that stuff, remember there's a lot of people that look up to you, and there's a lot of people that see that you took this risk to go out and build something, and that you're grinding, and they don't know how to do it, and you're inspiring them.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
So people want to come and they want to support a local business owner because they hear how great of a dude you are and they hear the environment that you've created. How do they learn more about TFW and Luther Glover? They got to hit you up on your Hotmail account?
No, man. We got trainingforwarriorskansascity.com.
Okay.
And then we have an Instagram page. We have Training for Warriors Lenexa. We have that on Instagram. We have, we're still working on our
social media platform.
As you see, we're very low key here.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I'm going to post all this stuff, obviously, in the blog post and ensure that all our listeners have it. But most importantly, just learn a little bit more about Luther and the environment. If you're looking low-key to get in shape and you want to be part of something bigger and you want to feel inspired, then check out TFW and Luther Glover. He's a great dude. Thank you very much for being here, man. You're a good dude. Appreciate it.
Oh, man.
I'm going to go get these W's.
You gotta take all L's. She ain't getting no wins.
Thank you again for joining us, the Fundamism podcast. As always, we challenge you to go out and create a little bit of fun in your day, but hopefully you find a way to create some fun in others' lives as well. Tune in for the next Fundamism podcast and have a blessed day.